I am so excited. I'm on my way to pick up George Whitesides, CEO of Virgin Galactic. Virgin Galactic is Richard Branson's endeavor to bring commercial spaceflight to everyday people. They've been working on it for 15 years and have recently moved their operations to right here in beautiful New Mexico. I'm going to pick up George. We're going to take a ride to Spaceport America. I'm Edwin Marcial. This is Techrides.
This is southern New Mexico. You know, we're heading north to the Spaceport America. So this is a new road that they just put in over the last year or two. I mean, there was a road here, but it was a dirt road before, sort of like a ranching road.
Right.
And for the Spaceport, they created this road to take people from Las Cruces up to the Spaceport. So like this is
brand new.
This is great. This is our new road. See, the thing is today, it's sort of a special day. Like we have this big university competition at the Spaceport.
Yes, yes.
And so, you know, they have 100 teams from all over the world, really, like Australia and Germany and Switzerland and all these different places bring their rockets to the Spaceport, and there's this thing called the Spaceport America Cup, which is this, it's like the largest intercollegiate rocketry competition that there is.
Oh, awesome.
And
so today is the final.
Today's the final day, so we might actually see some launches. Yeah. So usually there's not too much traffic on this road, but because of this competition this week, there may be a few more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A few more launches, or sorry, cars going through, and launches,
or a cow. So we might see a cow. We might see a rocket,
or cows. Test range that we're about to get to, the Whitesides missile range, is a key part of the American civil and military technology, establishment, right? And so they test all kinds of things, rockets, new types of propulsion, different types of weapons, all kinds of different things in this site. And the Spaceport is sort of tucked inside the restricted airspace of the Whitesides missile range. Launches can be done without disturbing any of the surrounding commercial air traffic, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't want to disturb the commercial air traffic.
Right.
And what they have here is something that's pretty special. It's airspace that's restricted from the surface all the way up to infinity, all the way to space. Mm-hmm. There's very few places like that on the planet, but in the United States in particular. When the state of New Mexico wanted to create a commercial spaceport, which was an idea that was around long before Virgin Galactic.
Okay.
Since the 90s or maybe even earlier. They sort of thought, okay, well, where would be the right place to put in a commercial spaceport in New Mexico? So they decided if they tucked it inside the restricted area of Whitesides, but not inside the land of Whitesides. So it's sort of on BLM rancher land, but it's inside the airspace. That's like the perfect combination because it allows sort of a private development to occur within the public, the restricted airspace. And that was perfect for us because, one of the key parts of our business is to bring airline-like operations to spaceflight, right?
Right.
And so we really want to operate at a pretty high rate. And so if we can do that in such a way that, we don't have to disturb surrounding commercial air traffic, because the point is that basically commercial airliners can't travel inside the Whitesides missile range restricted airspace when that airspace is active. The other great things about this area are obviously it's not very populated, and that's safer. It is great weather, like today, They say they have sunshine like 330 days a year down here. And you're a mile up, right? So you're a little bit closer to space too. So for all of those reasons, it seemed to make like a lot of sense to be conducting ongoing operations here in New Mexico. But the main thing is that the state, way back over 10 years ago, decided to make a big bet on commercial space and build this thing called Spaceport America. So they have created the world's first commercial spaceport here in southern New Mexico.
And they did this before you were going to come here, right? So did they even know it was Virgin Galactic? You were in operation by then, or started to build the program.
We had just started, and basically there was a handshake deal between the governor at the time and Richard Branson, which basically said, the governor said, if you build a spaceship system, I will build a spaceport. And Richard said, if you build a spaceport, I'm going to build a spaceship. And, they shook hands because they're,
So when they built it, when they decided to go ahead, they had Virgin Galactic in mind as like the anchor tenant.
We'd actually signed a deal to be the anchor tenant of the spaceport.
Okay.
So the building that you're going to see is this dedicated facility that we call a gateway to space. And it's this beautiful building designed by Sir Norman Foster, the guy who's built all these great airports and other buildings.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And this is where we're going to be training our future astronauts and then conducting the flights to space, and also doing a little bit of entertaining of the friends and family and everything.
Right.
And I just think, it's like such a beautiful area, right? You look around, these amazing hills,
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
the valley.
It's really, really amazing.
This is super historic area. It's sort of along the lines of this famous old trail that has been here for hundreds of years. A trail going from basically Mexico City, all the way up to Santa Fe, north of Santa Fe. Okay. And obviously there's been tons of history, but this was actually one of the toughest parts of the journey because it was sort of through this 60 miles of desert here. And so this is actually part of the Camino Real, that is this really historic route.
That's kind of like really interesting because you've got this old west look here. You've got the mountains, It's almost like it's a throwback to old the American West.
Yeah.
But then now you've got a space program.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that cool?
This incredible
combination of all these times and eras. It's a really fascinating area to be a part of, and we're excited to bring what we hope will be its revolution in opening up space to people, to southern New Mexico. And then there's the whole technology side, right? Like I just had dinner last night with the head of the New Mexico State University system, and we were talking about how if we're flying to space every week or multiple times a week, there's going to be this great opportunity for science and technology to happen. People will be shipping their experiments down to NMSU, down to the spaceport, to get processed to go into space, on a weekly basis, right? We've never had that with space, right? What happens with space? What do we call space? Space launches are typically referred to as campaigns, And what do you think of when you think of a campaign? I think of climbing a mountain, It's like you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. It's going to be really hard, really difficult and expensive.
Right.
And we want to change that paradigm so that it's more like, getting on an airplane,
Yeah.
And I think the promise of what we're starting here is highly reusable spaceflight, right? A vehicle that can operate not just one time, not just 5 times or a dozen times, but a vehicle that can operate hundreds of times or even thousands of times,
Right.
And that's revolutionary.
So you've been at Virgin Galactic for 9 years?
That's right, 9 years.
Before that, you were with NASA, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you were the chief of staff.
Yeah.
Okay. How long were you there?
I was there for a couple of years, basically the first couple of years of the Obama administration.
Okay.
So I came in
was that an appointed position, or was
it is an appointed position? Yeah. So I came in as part of I did a little bit of advising of the Obama campaign on space issues.
Okay.
With some other people. I was not the only person at all by any means, but and then there's something called the transition team. So when a new president gets elected, there's a transition team that comes in advance of his or her inauguration to sort of say, okay, here's the situation. Here's the straight scoop on this or that agency. Now, NASA is, of course, like a national jewel, right? So they did a great job with transition, gave us all this information. And then when the president nominated the guy who was going to run NASA, Charlie Bolden, I helped run his nomination process, or his confirmation process, rather.
I remember, though, under President Obama, that there was a change at NASA, right? I mean, the space shuttle program had ended.
It was going to end.
It was about to end.
It ended under his tenure.
It was about to end,
but it had been scheduled to end before he was elected, basically.
Right. So it was scheduled to end. It ended, and then there was a choice made there to for NASA not to do their own flights, but to let private enterprise do the flights.
That's right. Yeah. So there has been, I would say, bipartisan agreement that the U.S. government should try to use commercial or even entrepreneurial efforts where it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And like President Bush before Obama was, enthusiastic about that. But what President Obama did was he made a decision that, that for crewed launch up to low Earth orbit, that we would use private companies, that NASA wouldn't sort of own its own thing. And the whole point there was to take advantage of this tremendous, amazing shift that's going on in commercial space right now, or in space, which is all this innovation around launch, and us and SpaceX and Blue, all these companies are creating these new launch options, which, were not possible before, right? And so, what President Obama and his team decided was let's push on that. Let's see what we can do. Now he still authorized a sort of a government big launch system.
Yeah.
He did say for low Earth orbit, for humans getting into low Earth orbit, we're going to use these private providers.
Okay. But does that mean for longer trips, they'll still use NASA? I mean, because I just heard the other day, I think I read the other day or yesterday, that we're trying to get back to the moon.
Yes, we are going. That is the current policy of the current administration.
And so that'll be a government program.
That'll be a government program.
So have you always been a rocket scientist?
I've always been a space geek. I will say that. I mean, since I was a little kid, I wanted to go into space, and I'm still very inspired by space, and I'm inspired about how I think space sort of in many ways represents the best of humanity. There are other things that are great about humanity, but what do I mean? I mean, space is a place where we can show courage, high technology, cooperation, also competition, which I think is also the best of humanity in some ways, or represents the best of humanity. Inspiration, understanding, science, great stuff. So I'm still inspired by those themes. Okay, and by the way, there's the spaceport over there. Sorry.
Oh wow.
Cool. Just rising out. You see how it just rises out of the environment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
It kind of blends in. And it's kind of the color of a lot of the terrain.
And that was the point. Was Foster didn't want to design some huge thing that wrecked the landscape.
Right.
He wanted something that, because it's such a beautiful landscape here, right? He wanted something that could sort of blend, but also be distinctive, but blend. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think he really succeeded.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
It's just, and as you get closer, it's obviously bigger. I mean, and more beautiful and everything. We'll get a chance to drive around and experience it. And you can see that there's a piece of artwork and everything. Yeah, I love it. I love being out here.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. All this innovation going on in commercial space right now is driving down the cost of space access. And that's the key to opening up the solar system, right? If we can make it cheaper to get into space, then we can do so much more. Oh, look, a rocket just went off.
Oh, awesome.
Right over there.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what happens at a spaceport. Rockets take off.